Almost everything you buy online, track at sea, or pay for with a card depends on a cable thinner than a garden hose. And when one breaks, a tiny fleet of repair ships can decide how expensive global commerce becomes. That sounds like an internet outage story. It isn't. It's a logistics story about repair vessels, permits, choke points, and waiting time. And my argument is simple. The real power in global connectivity is not just in who owns the cables, but in who can physically fix them fast enough. What are submarine cables really? They are the physical pipes carrying more than 95% of intercontinental data traffic, according to the International Cable Protection Committee and widely cited industry estimates. Cloud requests, card authorizations, freight bookings, foreign exchange messages, container tracking dashboards, all of it leans on this hidden mesh on the ocean floor. The internet feels weightless. It is not. It is steel, glass, insulation, marine charts, and a repair queue. Now, the mechanism. A cable fault is rarely dramatic on screen. A trawler drags an anchor. A subsea landslide shifts the seabed. A ship accident near a choke point cuts multiple lines. Traffic reroutes because the network is designed for redundancy. That part is true. But redundancy is not the same as infinite spare capacity. When traffic is pushed onto longer or busier routes, latency rises, resilience falls, and critical services start paying more for certainty. That cost doesn't stay inside telecom balance sheets. It leaks outward. Think about a payment authorization. It is just a few packets of data. But if a regional route is congested after a break, payment processors, banks, and cloud providers may reroute through more expensive capacity or activate contingency arrangements. Reuters and industry reporting after major Red Sea cable disruptions in 2024 described telecom operators rerouting traffic and managing degraded paths after multiple cable cuts. A few milliseconds here, a backup route there, a premium transit contract somewhere else. None of that looks like inflation when it happens, yet it acts like friction inside the bloodstream of trade. And this is the part most people miss. We love talking about satellites as if orbit has replaced the seabed. It hasn't. Satellites are useful for remote coverage and backup, but they do not carry the bulk economics of global finance and cloud traffic. The heavy lifting is still underwater. In my view, that misunderstanding is dangerous because it makes a physical bottleneck look virtual and therefore easy to solve. It is neither. The bottleneck is the repair chain itself. There are only a limited number of specialized cable repair ships in the world, and they are not parked beside every vulnerable corridor waiting for a call. They operate under regional maintenance agreements, fixed zones, weather limits, and port constraints. If a break happens near the Red Sea, the Mediterranean, the Luzon Strait, or the waters around Singapore, the problem is not just the cut. The problem is who is available, how fast they can sail, whether they carry the right plow or grapnel, and whether authorities will grant permits before the commercial damage spreads. A repair mission sounds simple until you follow the sequence. First, operators need to detect the fault and estimate the location. Then, a ship is assigned. Then comes mobilization. Transit time, marine conditions, and permits for territorial waters or exclusive economic zones. After that, the cable has to be hooked from the seabed, lifted, tested, spliced, lowered, and protected again. What if the break sits in politically sensitive waters? What if there are two breaks? What if the ship is already busy on another contract? Suddenly, The world's digital nervous system is waiting on paperwork and sea state. This is where the economics turn sharp. According to telegeography, there are now well over 500 active and planned submarine cables globally. But repair capacity has not expanded with the same glamour as cable announcements. New cables makes headlines. Maintenance rarely does.
Yet maintenance is what determines downtime. It reminds me of ports. Investors love ribbon cutting for new terminals, but the real performance often depends on tug availability, dredging, and custom staffing. Invisible support decides visible speed. And speed matters because modern commerce is synchronized. Freight forwarders book space through cloud-based platforms. Ocean carriers push schedule updates through connected systems. Warehouses depend on software hosted across regions. Card networks and fraud engines compare transactions across borders in real time. If these systems degrade, trade does not stop like a movie blackout. It becomes slower, more cautious, and more expensive. That is worse in some ways, because creeping cost is harder to notice than a total failure. Here's a concrete chain. A cable fault increases congestion on a major route between Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Cloud workloads are rebalanced. Some enterprise customers pay for higher priority transit or shift compute zones. Payment and booking systems experience intermittent latency. Merchants build in more buffer. Platforms spend more on resilience. Insurers and logistics firms price in operational uncertainty. By the time the consumer sees a slightly higher cross-border fee, a slower refund, or a more expensive imported item, the original cause is already buried under 5 layers of contracts. One deep insight here is that undersea cables are not just communications infrastructure. They are time infrastructure. And in global trade, time is often more expensive than distance. A delayed signal can trigger a failed payment retry, a missed booking window, a pricing mismatch, or a risk alert that forces manual review. Anyone who has worked in operations knows this feeling. One small delay upstream creates a dozen tiny costs downstream. Mini hook. But the most fragile part of the system is not the cable on the seabed. It's the geography around it. Look at the map, and a pattern appears. Traffic clusters through narrow corridors. The Red Sea and Egypt for Europe-Asia links, the Strait of Malacca near Singapore, the Luzon Strait between Taiwan and the Philippines, the landing points around Marseille, Sicily, and a few critical hubs. These are not just engineering choices, they are geopolitical funnels. The more cables converge in a corridor, the more efficient the route becomes in normal times, and the more dangerous it becomes in abnormal times. Efficiency creates concentration. Concentration creates fragility. In early 2024, multiple subsea cable disruptions in the Red Sea drew attention because they affected a route carrying a meaningful share of Europe-Asia internet traffic. Operators rerouted, service providers absorbed shocks, and the system did not collapse. That led some observers to shrug. I think that shrug misses the point. The question is not whether the internet survived. The question is how much hidden cost was paid to make survival look smooth. But wait, the real twist is that the scarcest asset here may not be bandwidth. It may be legal access. A repair ship can be ready, the crew can be trained, the spare cable can be on board, and still nothing moves if permits stall.
In some waters, clearances can be sensitive, slow, or politically entangled.
That means a state, a regulator, or even administrative hesitation can indirectly shape cloud performance, payment reliability, and trade execution far beyond its coastline. That is an extraordinary form of leverage, not because someone flips a dramatic switch, but because delay itself becomes power. I find that more unsettling than sabotage. Sabotage is visible. Administrative delay hides inside procedure, and markets are terrible at pricing hidden delay until it becomes a crisis. There is another layer. The cloud market is concentrated. Large providers can absorb rerouting costs better than smaller firms. Big payment networks can engineer redundancy more effectively than regional players. Major logistics platforms can negotiate resilience contracts that smaller freight tech companies cannot. So when cable maintenance